today we're going to have a look at solving linear simultaneous equations. Just to begin with, we'll have a look at some of the key terminology I'll be using. So the number in front of the a, this 5, is called the coefficient, and the a is our variable. So having a look at question 1, it asks us to solve the simultaneous equations. So to begin with, we need to number our equations 1 and 2. Now we always make sure that one of the coefficients is the same in front of either the x's or the y's. You'll notice in this example we have the same coefficient in front of the y's. So our next job is to have a look at the signs. If the signs are the same, we need to subtract, and if the signs are different in front of our coefficient, then we would add together our equations. Here you can see that they are different signs, so we need to add together our equations. 3x plus 7x is equal to 10x. Negative 2y plus positive 2y is 0. 7 plus 13 is equal to 20. We can now divide our equation by 10 and we would get the answer for x, which is 2. Now we've found one of our unknowns, one of our variables. We've worked out that x is equal to 2. We can substitute this into either equation 1 or equation 2. I'm going to substitute it into equation 2 because that one doesn't have any negatives in, so I'm less likely to make a mistake. So I've got 7 times x, so 7 times 2, plus 2y is equal to 13. We know 17 times 2 is 14, plus this 2y is 13, and now we need to solve this equation. We're going to subtract 14 from both sides. That leaves us with 2y is equal to 13 subtract 14 is negative 1. We can now divide through by 2 to find what y is. So that is equal to negative 1/2 or negative 0.5. This next part you don't need to show in your exam. However, it's always nice to know that you've got the marks. So I would always advise that you can check by substituting in x equals to 2 and y equals to negative 0.5. Now we're going to substitute this into the one we didn't use. So we're going to sub in to 1. So we've got 3 lots of x, so 3 times 2, subtract 2 lots of y, so 2 lots of negative 0.5. 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. Negative 2 times negative 0.5 is equal to positive 1. Okay, negative times a negative gives you a positive. That should equal to the answer in the question, which is 7. So now, because you've completed that check, you know you have full marks on the question. Pause the video now and have a go at this second question. So again, we're having a look at which coefficient is the same. We can see the coefficient of x is the same in this question. So now our next step is to work out whether we need to add our equations together or subtract. Because the signs in front of the x's, the 3 x's, is the same because they're both positive, that means we need to subtract them. So we're going to subtract our first equation from our second. 3x, take away 3x, is 0x. 1y, subtract negative 4y. So we've got 1 subtract negative 4. That equals to 5y, because 2 negatives next to each other give you a positive. Negative 4 subtract 6 is negative 10. We can now divide through by 5 to work out that y is equal to negative 2. Now we can substitute in y equals to negative 2 into, I'm going to pick equation 1 this time. That gives us 3x. We've got 1y and we know y is equal to negative 2 equals to negative 4. And now we need to solve this equation. So we're going to get rid of this negative 2 by adding it to the other side. That leaves you with 3x is equal to negative 2. We can now again divide through by 3 and we get our answer, x is equal to negative 2/3. You can write this as a decimal, but you'd need to make sure you write it as 0.6 recurring, and you'd need the recurring. So my advice here would be to keep it as that fraction. Okay, so now we've worked out what y is and what x is, we can substitute them in to our second equation to check our answers right. We've got 3 lots of x, so 3 multiplied by negative 2/3 minus 4 lots of y. 3 times negative 2/3, well here we get the answer negative 2. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. Negative 2 add 8 is equal to 6, which is the same as in my question. Therefore, I've guaranteed myself all the marks. Okay, having a look at question 3. So here you'll notice the coefficients in my x's are not the same, nor are they the same in my y's. So we're actually going to have to do some multiplying before we either add or subtract. So at this point in the question, you can decide whether to make the coefficient of x the same or the coefficient of y the same. I'm going to make the coefficient of the x the same. I know that both 4 and 3 go into 12, so the lowest common multiple of 4 and 3 is 12. That means I need to multiply my first equation by 3. That gives me 12x plus 6y is equal to 21. It's important you multiply every single part in that equation by 3. And I'm going to have to multiply my equation 2 by 4, so that I get 12x at the front minus 20y is equal to negative 96. Now I've made my coefficient in front of the x the same. I follow the same steps as what I've done on the previous 2 questions. So I have a look at the signs. Because they're the same, we're going to subtract our equations from each other. 12x subtract 12x is 0. 6y subtract negative 20y is 26y. 21 subtract negative 96 is equal to 117. Now we just divide through by 26 and we get our answer 4.5. Now we've worked out what y is, I'm going to substitute in that value into equation 1 so that I can work out my x. So now I've got 4x plus 2 times 4.5 is equal to 7. So that leaves me with 4x plus 9 is equal to 7. So 4x must equal to negative 2 if we subtract 9 from both sides. Then we divide through by 4 to get negative 2 over 4 or negative 0.5. And finally, just want to check your answer. So we've got y is 4.5, x is equal to negative 0.5, and now we want to substitute it into the one we didn't use originally. So we're going to sub it in equation 2. So we've got 3 lots of x, so 3 multiplied by 0, negative 0.5, subtract 5 lots of y, so 5 multiplied by 4.5. 3 times negative 0.5 is negative 1.5, minus 5 lots of 4.5 be minus 22.5. Minus 1.5, subtract another 22.5 is equal to negative 24, the answer that we were expecting. So pause the video now if you want to have a go at this question before I go through it. Okay, so let's go through this question. So again, you'll notice that the coefficient in front of the x's is not the same, or the y's. So here we can make either the number in front of the x the same, or the y. This time we'll mix it up. I'll make the number in front of the y the same. So I'm looking for the lowest common multiple of 1 and negative 3. So that means I would want to times my first equation by 3. So now I've got the same coefficient in front of each. That means I'd have 12x plus 3y is equal to 75. And my equation 2 stays exactly the same because it has already had the coefficient of 3. So we've got x minus 3y is equal to 16. So now we need to have a look at the signs in front of the coefficient of y. We've got positive 3y and negative 3y. So because our signs are different, we would need to add these together. 12x plus x is equal to 13x. 3y add negative 3y is 0. And 75 plus 16 is equal to 91. What we'd now need to do is divide by 13. That's equal to 7. Now we've got x equals to 7, we're going to substitute that in. Again, it doesn't matter which one we can substitute into, however I'm going to pick number 1 because it avoids using any negatives. So I've now got 4 times 7 plus y is equal to 25. Well, we know 4 times 7 is 28, plus y is 25. We're now going to subtract that 28 from both sides, and that leaves us with y equals to negative 3. Again, you don't have to do this in your exam, but it's always good to check your answer, so you know you've got full marks when you're in there. So we're going to check by using x is 7, y equals to negative 3, and we have to use the one we didn't use originally, which is number 2. So this time we've got 7 minus 3 times negative 3 equals 3 times negative 3 is negative 9, so this becomes 7 minus negative 9, which equals to 16, which is what we're expecting to get. So now I know in my exam I have full marks. Again, if you want to have a go at this question before I go through it, pause the video now. So here again our coefficients do not match our x's, and the coefficient of y's are both different. So it doesn't matter which one we're going to make the same. For this question, I'm going to make the coefficient in front of x the same, so I'm trying to look for the lowest common multiple of 4 and 3. I know that this is 12. That means that I've got to times the first equation by 3 and the second equation by 4. That gives me 12x plus 21y equals to 3, and 12x plus 40y equals to 60. We now look at the signs in front of our coefficients of x, which are both positive. Because they're the same, we need to subtract. 12x subtract 12x is nothing. 21y subtract 40y is equal to negative 19y. And 3 subtract 60 is negative 57. If we now divide through by negative 19, we would get the answer 3. Now we know what y is 3, we can substitute this into either 1 or 2 to work out x. I'm going to use the first one. So we've got 4x plus 7 times 3 equals to 1. So 4x plus 21 is 1. So if we subtract 21 from both sides, we're left with 4x is equal to negative 20, so x equals to negative 5. We can now check this in our exam by using y is 3, x equals to negative 5, and subbing that in to equation 2, the one which we didn't use earlier. So that means we've got 3 times by negative 5, add 10 times 3. 3 times negative 5 is equal to negative 15. 10 times 3 is 30. Negative 15, add 30, equals to 15. And that's what we're expecting. Okay, so the final question in this set. So if you want to have a go at this, pause the video now. Again, finally, we can see that the coefficients in the x's and the coefficients of y's are not the same. So we need to make the coefficient in front of the x's or the y's the same. I'm going to make the coefficient in front of the x's the same. I know the lowest common multiple of 2 and 3 is 6. That means I need to multiply equation 1 by 3, which gives me 6x minus 12y is equal to 57. And I'm going to times equation 2 by 2. 6x plus 10y equals to 2. Now my coefficient of x is the same. I can subtract because my signs are the same, they're both positive 6, so I subtract. That leaves me with negative 12 subtract 10y, which is negative 22y, equals to 55. If I now divide 55 by negative 22, I'm left with y equals to negative 2.5. I can now substitute this in. I'm going to substitute it into equation 1. So I've got 2x minus 4 times negative 2.5 equals to 19. Negative 4 times negative 2.5 is positive 10, and that equals to 19. I can now solve this equation where I get 2x is equal to 9 and x is 4.5. I can check in my exam my two solutions of y equals to negative 2.5 and x equals to 4.5 in the equation I didn't use. So I'm going to substitute that into equation 2. So that means I've got 3 times 4.5 plus 5 times negative 2.5. That's equal to 13.5 add negative 12.5. 13.5 subtract 12.5 equals to 1. The answer we were expecting, so I've now guaranteed myself 4 marks in my exam.